Good afternoon, Kids Town. Welcome back to another Bible story time. This week, we're going to read a story called The Great Escape. It's taken from Exodus chapter 12, verses 1 through 42, and chapter 14, verses 5 through 31. I hope you enjoy it. The Great Escape, taken from Exodus chapter 12, verses 1 through 42, and chapter 14, verses 5 through 31. These were dark times. God had just sent 9 terrible plagues over Egypt: gnats, flies, frogs, hail, you name it. But Pharaoh still wouldn't let God's people, the Israelites, go. And now the 10th and final plague was upon us. Death was coming. But even in this blackest of nights, we had hope. God promised to rescue us, although the firstborn sons of Egypt would die. God said he would pass over the houses of his people who put the blood of a lamb over their front doors. While we huddled with our families over our Passover meals, I was scared. After all, I was the firstborn son in my family. Safe in my home, I heard the screams and cries of Egyptian parents as their firstborn sons died. The 10th plague was both quick and merciless. Before the night was over, Pharaoh called Moses and Aaron, who was Moses' older brother, to his palace. Pharaoh's own son had died too. With tears streaming down his angry face, he pointed toward the hills and yelled, "Get out!" And just like that, all of us Israelites, more than 1 million of us, quickly packed up our things and hurried out of Egypt. But we weren't safe yet. As soon as we were gone, Pharaoh changed his mind. He loaded up every chariot in Egypt, all his horses, and his entire army, and chased us down. By the time we saw them coming, there was no way for us to escape. We were backed up against the sea with nowhere to run. Of course, we panicked. "Oh no," we shouted. "We're doomed. We've escaped Egypt only to die in the wilderness." "Stay calm," Moses said. "Just stand still and watch God rescue you." As usual, Moses was right. God took care of us again. God's angel went to the back of our camp to protect us. Then the huge pillar of cloud that had been leading us moved behind to block the Egyptians' path. It hovered there all day, and at night it turned into fire. And then God did something even more amazing. God told Moses to raise his hand over the sea. The wind swirled all around us, and the water split right down the middle. A giant wall of water rose up on each side. God created a dry path for us to cross the sea. We picked up our things and began to walk across the seabed with walls of water on each side. Not a drop of water splashed our faces or touched our feet. Meanwhile, Pharaoh watched in amazement. His anger turned into rage, and he shouted for his army to follow us. When we glanced back over our shoulders, we could see the soldiers racing their chariots into the seabed behind us. They were catching up, and fast. But we kept moving. God was doing something miraculous, and all we could do was push onward. When every one of us reached the other side of the sea, God told Moses to raise his hand again. And the walls of water rushed down over the dry path, filling the sea with water again. Wave after wave crashed down on Pharaoh's soldiers and chariots. Next thing we knew, the entire army had been covered in water. Not one of them survived. They were gone. We stood in awe of God's mighty power. We laughed and cried and hugged each other. More than 400 years of slavery in Egypt and finally come to an end. God had truly rescued us, and we were finally free. We're a family. We love each other and grow closer to each other every day. We've gone through some scary times together, from living through that awful night in Egypt to escaping through those giant walls of water. But we stuck together and trusted God. You are a part of family too. And sometimes you go through times that are kind of scary or make you nervous. But God wants you and your family to stick together. As long as you trust God, you can make it. What does it feel like to be afraid? Imagine yourself in a scary situation. Now think of yourself being completely safe. How different does it feel to have no fear?